Arriving in Battambang, it is apparent that the city has been less touched by tourism than Siem Reap. It is busier, noisier, and generally a bit rougher around the edges. That being said, whilst it might not be so obviously picturesque, exploring Battambang's side streets reveals plenty of hidden gems. First on our agenda was to grab some coffee, then some vegan pancakes. We introduced ourselves to one of the locals, and that was pretty much it for the day. We started our first full day in Battambang by filling up with a good breakfast, before embarking on a tour of the local sites. First stop on the tour was the bamboo train, which is essentially a bamboo platform on an abandoned railway that rural communities used to get around before the road infrastructure was in place. Nowadays, it's mostly for tourists. Honestly, I didn't think too much of the bamboo train, although it was kind of fun. But luckily, we had a few more stops on the tour to look forward to. Next, we travelled to Phnom Penh, the site of the Killing Caves, which were used by the Khmer Rouge as a killing site during the Cambodian genocide. The hill is also home to multiple Buddhist temples. Finally, we remained at Phnom Penh for the sunset to see millions of bats depart from their caves to hunt at twilight. This was a bit tough to capture on camera, but in person it was a truly spectacular sight. We ended the day at a local restaurant called Jan Bai, where I had one of the best pork chops I've ever eaten. Departing Battambang, we boarded a bus bound for Phnom Penh and settled in for the 5.5-hour journey. The scenery soon changed from bustling streets to flat, sparse Cambodian countryside, and it was to stay this way for the next few hours. The bus driver kept everyone entertained with increasingly daring overtaking manoeuvres, so I tucked into some Pepero crunch trees and tried not to think about what it would be like to have a head-on collision with a cattle truck. At the midway point, we pulled into a petrol station for a pit stop, where the attractions included a bizarre and kind of sad exotic animal enclosure. Refueled, we got back on the road, with the next stop being the capital, Phnom Penh. had a bit of a lazy morning. We were supposed to go for brunch today, ended up just being a lunch, but it was really nice.
Yeah, we went somewhere called Backyard Cafe.
Yeah.
I'd say 80% of the menu is vegan.
Yeah, we're trying to be a bit healthier after last night's burger feast. So
I think it's easy to get into the habit of, because you're having dinner and lunch and breakfast out.
yeah.
You just get like the biggest thing you can and feel a bit like you've overeaten.
So we're hitting a few of Phnom Penh's sites today, starting with the Royal Palace. The palace ended up being shut to visitors, so after wandering around for a bit, we decided to grab a tuk-tuk to see some other attractions, starting with the War Nom Dawn Pen Temple and its impressive hornbills. Next we made our way over to what is known as Silk Island, which sits in the middle of the Mekong River and, as you might have guessed, is an area known for its silk production. Whilst we learned a thing or two about silkworms, the island felt like a bit of a tourist trap, and the locals seemed disappointed by the fact that we had no interest whatsoever in buying silk. So we soon set off back to the city for the evening, but at least we got some great views on the way back. For our last day in Phnom Penh, we just chilled and got some much needed rest, with the knowledge that we'd be back in the city soon enough on our way back through. Another tuk-tuk, another bus, and we were out of Phnom Penh and heading south towards Sihanoukville. We'd been warned about Sihanoukville, but decided to spend a couple of nights in the city on the basis that there should be enough there to keep us occupied for at least one day. That was a mistake. On arriving at the outskirts of the city, we were greeted by a monolithic, abandoned tower, and this wouldn't be the last. The majority of Sihanoukville's buildings are simply concrete skeletons, unfinished Chinese construction projects that had been halted during COVID and the subsequent collapse of the Chinese real estate market. Unfinished is probably the most generous description that could be applied to Sihanoukville, with the reality being that there is little to no indication that the dream of turning the city into a prestigious beachside destination will ever be realised. The would-be luxury resorts lie mostly abandoned and rotting amongst streets filled with trash and stray dogs. The only signs of life in the city are the many gaudy Chinese casinos and the luxury cars that flock to them, the fleets of Maybachs in stark contrast to their surroundings. We found no redeeming features to Sihanoukville in our time there. The beaches, whilst appearing inviting, were punctuated by the smell of sewage that deterred any swimming or sunbathing. The people we encountered gave the impression they would love to escape the city if they could. The food was terrible. The only good thing I have to say about Sihanoukville is that its port is a gateway to some of the most incredible places that Cambodia has to offer. It's time for us to get out of here.